Hajj. And that is the origin of this title. Now that you perform the Hajj, you become, in fact, once you perform the Hajj, it's okay, it's gone. You don't need to be called Al-Hajj anymore, but it has become a very important social, how to call it, title that so much so that if you don't call people by those names, they get angry. Yes, even though it is a tradition of Islam, as the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad said that call people by name that they like. You understand? There is nothing wrong. Like if your name is Abu Bakr, sometimes you can be called Babukar, sometimes you Bakari. You understand? But you're Babukar, but your real name is Abu Bakr, and that's what you like to be called. Then let's call you that name. You understand? And there's nothing wrong, though, calling people this Al-Hajj, Al-Hajj. Because, in fact, it has not become, a special social status in the Islamic communities. Yeah. So much so that some people want to be called Al-Hajj, and that means this can motivate them more to work very hard to get lawful, to get, how to call it, halal money and go to Makkah and do the Hajj. But the titles are not necessary. Whether you are called Al-Hajj or you're not called Hajj, it doesn't matter. You don't have to quarrel with people. You don't have to dictate people to be calling Al-Hajj. Otherwise, there are problems with it. Or sometimes, in fact, with some people, if you go for a particular business, you will not get it done because you don't call the people the name he or she would want you to call it. So that is it. There is nothing wrong with calling people, calling them Al-Hajj, Al-Hajj, or Hajj, or Ajarat, whatever, because they have become social titles, but they are not necessary, and they are not part of the process.
Okay. Osas, but people are different. Now, if you are so that Mr. X or Mr. Y, if I call him Alaji, at least that could influence him, or that could motivate him to act good and act like a gentleman, per se. Will it be mandatory upon you then to call him just to spur his actions towards good? In other words,
sort of to...
some people, if you call them, for example, if you attach to them titles, they act,
quickly. Because and that's why I'm saying that the tradition has it that call people the names that they like. Exactly. With some people, particularly if you go to them to get a particular business done, you have to call them the name that you want them to call you. You understand? And it might be part of a social discipline, because I can remember when we were in the Indian subcontinent studying, some of these retired military men who are also well educated, they'll come to teach in the university. I remember one of them specifically will want you to call him, to address him, sir. Like if you call your name, you must say yes, sir, for instance, because they are coming from a particular disciplinary background, and they are very disciplined people, and they also want you to treat them in a very disciplined way. So fine, this thing too, some people, not because they are disciplined, but because they believe that there is something that they earn, they work very hard to earn, and they deserve it. And also they like to be called that name because it's a special prestige for them in society. And people that are prestigious, or people that have been able to make certain achievements, they always want to be recognized as such publicly. And recognizing them publicly will sort of win their hearts toward you. You'll be able to win their support or to win their hearts. So in other words, you also become somebody who's personally interested in calling them the names that they want to be called. But what one has to understand here is that this is then it just becomes a social title, sort of a cultural practice, or whatever name you call it, but it is not necessarily part of Islam as an injunction, or it's not something that you may call sunnah, or it's not something that you say one must do, otherwise one will be accounted for. So it's just a cultural, social practice or social norm. People are not bound to do, but if doing it, make them, closer together, and then bring more peace among themselves, fine, they can go ahead doing it. But it's not part of the process, I said.
Okay.
No.
Thank you very much for answering that question also. Another interesting thing that we currently were witnessing in this Alaji and Aja boom is that the different parties they organized to welcome their mothers, their aunties, and their fathers who come from Mecca. These celebrations are done in different styles and in different forms. Now, what are the specific means or ways of doing them according to Islam?
Modesty. Do it in a very modest way. Yes, traditionally, when when travelers return home, they are welcomed. You know, this is part of the welcoming ceremony exercise. And sometimes they go to the extent of organizing a special ceremony to welcome them. You understand? And fine. You know, it is important to keep things within their normal limit. You know, what you may call a welcome ceremony or program for an alhaji. You know, the Obunya or Tiranga, whatever name you may call it, has its limit as far as Islam is concerned. Do it in a very modest way and do it for the sake of God. You're spending the dollars that you do to welcome your Haji is for lillahi. Whether people give you or they don't give you, this is what you can do. Do what you can do for the sake of God, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And make sure also you do it in accordance with Sunnah of the Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Make it in a very low profile fashion. Let it be very modest. And make sure that you don't incur any financial liability for the sake of doing it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. You don't have to take loan in the first instance. You don't have to go and ask people to give you money so that you'll be able to do it. If you cannot do it, you cannot do it. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wasaha. You know, what you cannot do, you must not do. You are not obliged to do. That's what Islam says. So do it in a very modest way. And you don't also have to do it lavishly. Because normally, what do we do? What are the things that we put together when we welcome a stranger or a guest or a visitor? Food, let it be halal food. Drink, halal drink. Of course, naturally, they're going to be halal for halal drink. But what I'm saying is somebody doesn't have to, you know, how to call it, steal money in order to do it. You don't have to incur financial liability. You don't have to embark upon a corrupt practice or a deceptive transaction in order for you to get money and to be able to do it. This will distort the whole process. You understand? So keep it within the limit of welcome. Let it not be too flamboyant, too exorbitant, extravagant.
It's one major problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now it is a custom. You can never do this alaji bunya or teranga.
Yeah.
It is done with the bull.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Nobody, you know, slaughters a ram whatsoever.
Yeah,
That's too small.
What happens if you cannot afford to buy a bull?
You must do something to have it.
I mean, and again, what is your question now will be? What will be the basis of this obligation?
Exactly.
I'm obliged to do it. I must do it. Who told you? Who said so? You're a Muslim.
Yeah.
And the basis of obligations are anchored in Sharia, whether you call them mandatory or recommendable or whatever, but they are anchored in Sharia. But this is just simply a social ceremony. If you want to Islamize it, we make sure that we do it in a way that does not contradict the teaching. Like like the Tumaski or the Quality celebrations. These are Islamic feasts, but they will continue to be Islamic and they will retain